Again, I don't see it as cute stuff. I see it as plays that, like I said, we've given a lot of sweeps to Elijah Moore this year, and they've been good for us. But there's timing in the situations with it. We came out of last year, and we did a lot of just QB sneaks and teams packing it up in there, and we knew that was going to have to be another element to our short yardage, was being able to get the ball out on the perimeters.
Joe Brady defending the decision to hand the ball to Elijah Moore. So they've got him on a few sweeps this year. He's got 5 carries, 25 yards, and a touchdown. Moore does this year. Joe Marino joining us on the Western Hotline to chat about the Bills-Falcons game, the All-22, the bye week, and all that comes with it. Joe, good morning. Jeremy and Joe, how are you today, Joe?
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm doing well, and I certainly hope that you are.
We are. We'll get to a lot of stuff today. We'll get to some stuff on the defense and the trade deadline and what's going on there. But I think, after watching your All-22 review of this game, you've got a little bit of a different story to paint than maybe just the 30,000-foot view of no one's getting open. That this game and this offensive struggle lays primarily, maybe that's my word, maybe not yours, with the coordinator and the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in Joe Brady's plan for this game. It was pretty widely understood that Atlanta had the highest blitz rate in the league going into this game, and they blitzed like crazy. They blitzed on 60% of Josh Allen's dropbacks, and it didn't look like an offense that was ready to handle the blitz. And I think you could point to some protection breakdowns where Atlanta got them on some load pressures, and you got some issues with Josh Allen's eyes and not being in the right place. I think you have an issue with answers not being available. And when I think you have that many layers to the issue, you go back to your coordinator and realize that he just didn't have the right stuff for this game. And then within that, the sequencing of the play calls and what he was trying to accomplish just didn't measure up with what Atlanta was presenting. And so it's a pretty frustrating situation. There's, it's never one thing in football, but I put most of my blame here on Joe Brady, just not having the right stuff for his offense going into this game, and certainly not pulling the right strings during it.
What did you think was missing? Like, what should they have been doing more of, you think, that would have been more impactful?
Well, I think it comes back to just a readiness for the style of defense that Atlanta was going to play. And I think they're a blitz-aggressive defense that has a lot of speed, but they're small. They're a very small defense, maybe the smallest defense in the league. And the Bills in the second half, they got into some gap runs. And gap runs, that just means that you're running to a specific gap, and the blocking structure is designed to create displacement and move bodies out of the way. Where a zone run, you're going to block to a zone, and you're relying on angles and the running back to make good decisions. Gap runs is about getting downhill and moving bodies out of the way. And the Bills were able to do that at a high level. In fact, in the game, they ran the ball, or James ran it 17 times. 14 were gap runs out of the 17. And the Bills, in terms of yards before contact, second best in the league this past week. And they just didn't have enough of a commitment to it. And you saw both touchdown drives really be influenced because of that rushing style. I know that the first touchdown drive was really about the bomb to Palmer and then a great throw to Dawson Knox. But the structure of the run scheme, where they're in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends on that first play with one receiver being Palmer, and you show them that this is coming, and I'm sure Atlanta was pretty concerned about that, being able to stop that. And you get a one-on-one, and Palmer runs a great route, and Josh launches a bomb down the field, you eventually score a touchdown. But that Ray Davis touchdown was, they ran gap schemes all the way down the field and got to the, pretty close to the red zone there, maybe just inside. And they run play action and Reggie Gilliam's play side, and they wham him across the formation, and the linebacker goes with him, and it opens this edge for Ray Davis. You dump it to him, he scores a touchdown. That had to be the foundation of everything you did in the game. And when it was, you scored. And when it wasn't, you didn't. And obviously, you're without Kincaid, you're without Palmer pretty quick. I think in a game like this, Curtis Samuel probably matters. And to not lean into the best opportunity that you had to attack this defense, to me, is really goofy by this offensive coordinator.
Joe, do you think, sometimes for fans watching a game, like anybody out there, cute is a play? What you're talking about here, do you feel like the entire game plan got cute instead of just doing the thing you should have done?
Yeah, I do. I do think that. And not only not coming in with, I think, the right ideas to beat this defense, but then within the game, falling in love with some stuff that just didn't make any sense to me. You should never be in love with isolated routes in man coverage with Keon Coleman against A.J. Terrell. That's a mismatch for Atlanta. The favor is Atlanta. That's a good man coverage corner. That's not a good man coverage separator at receiver. Why are you in love with those isolated opportunities? They're wasted downs. I mean, the Elijah Moore play, it's well documented. Sean McDermott was very direct about how silly that play was. And look, I think we wanted counters from the tush push, and that was, right? They have Reggie Gilliam right there behind Josh Allen. It looks like a tush push, and they attacked the edge on the handoff, and maybe it was blocked well. But the point is, you're just not repped enough handing the ball to Elijah Moore in a game situation, or Dawson Knox, right? So you see this fail 2 weeks in a row really give you a game-changing play for the other team because you had an unforced error. And ultimately, James Cook, just run the ball with James Cook and live with it, right? You got this physical offensive line that's big against a small front and a great running back. Live with that. Don't live with handing the ball to Elijah Moore and relying on perimeter blockers to get it done when you have that offensive line and that running back.
Are we – I kind of joked about this earlier with Joe. Are we starting to watch the death of everybody eats? Because it feels like the last couple weeks it's been a lot of more Cook, more Kincaid, stop messing around. These are your best players. Maybe more Shakir as well. You're always going to diversify. You're not feeding a true number one, but this idea that everybody's got to be involved's got to go.
Well, I think there's so many layers to that. I think you want to get the ball to your best players, right? I think anybody can watch the Bills and realize that their best players are Cook, Shakir, Kincaid, right? Those are the best four playmakers you have. And then I really like Palmer, and I thought it was going to be a big Palmer game and got hurt on his second catch. Coleman's going to me, always be a very specific type player. So, yeah, you should prioritize getting the ball to those players. And then everyone else is going to be, ancillary, and you factor them in to an extent. But I think ultimately this offense and why it would be successful throwing the football, well, of course it's Josh Allen, but from a structure perspective, it's really about how the scheme creates opportunities, right? And the Bills do not have great separators. Nobody's going to argue that they have great separators, but that doesn't mean that not anybody's open on a play, right? That's, to me, a very false narrative coming out of this game, and I have put together plenty of film that will prove that I'm right about that. But when you have your best separators weren't available, Kincaid and Palmer are your best separators, and you didn't have them in this game. So you're not going to go route up anybody, right, with that group of players. But the scheme, right, based on route concepts and the quarterback's eyes being in the right place, it will get people open, and then you just have to make the right decision and throw the football. And so because of that, I think it leads to kind of necessitating some everybody eats because you are relying on the concept more than you are the player,
Gotcha.
Especially when you're down your best separators from a route running perspective. So it's some structural stuff that I think feeds into everybody eats more than anything.
Okay. Joe Marino joining us of the Locked On Bills podcast. Joe, I want to read you something that our buddy Benjamin Solak tweeted yesterday. I know you have a lot of respect for what he does and having worked with him before. He wrote yesterday that regarding the Bills, watching their film, that the Bills defense, the Bills should be pursuing a safety deadline trade more aggressively than any deadline buyer of any position of the last few seasons. Would you agree? How bad is it?
Yeah, I think it's hard to win right now with Taylor Rapp and the way that he's playing. And then you have a high variance player in Bishop, where, he's going to make some plays. He's going to make some mistakes, which I think is to be expected. But you were supposed to have stable play from Taylor Rapp, and you just don't. Whether that's coverage or fitting the run or tackling, it's just not there. And so, yes, I am eager and hopeful to see something like that happen. I don't think it will. I don't think that the Bills are going to trade for a safety and start him. I think it's too much of a trust position, whether you like it or not. Like, I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just telling you what I think the team's mindset is. I think it's too much of a trust position, and they're not going to trade for somebody in the middle of the season and put them in there to start. So I think your hope there is that they believe that Jordan Poyer can help this defense. And, I think that says a lot because I don't think much of that idea either. But you watch Taylor Rapp play, and it's very difficult to reconcile the playing time that he has. So I agree that you need upgrades at safety. I don't think they're coming. And I think more than anything, what you have to do is get away from some of your coverage philosophies. This team is really getting gashed with spot drop zone coverage, and so it's kind of like playing a video game where everyone's played Madden, and so you pick up coverage and you see the little areas that each player is supposed to get to, and that's what they do. They don't adjust, right? So they're very just hyper focused on getting to landmarks. And that's not playing with vision. That's not playing with feel. You have to be willing to squeeze and tighten and drive on routes, and they're just getting to landmarks. And it's creating free access all over the field. And so you're watching this Bills defense, particularly early in the game, and they got away from this in the second half. That's why they were way better in the second half. You're watching this Bills defense, and whether it's Atlanta or other times throughout the year, and you're like, everyone's open. Everybody's wide open. And then it brings up questions about, well, why can't the Bills get these players wide open? Well, that's because they're not facing spot drop zone coverage. They're facing man coverage. And the spot drop zone is just leading to free access all over the field because they're not adjusting from their landmarks. They're not driving out routes. They're not together. And so, yeah, well, get better safeties, right? Sure. But ultimately, I think it's a philosophy that's flawed that I think is killing this team. And so, yes, I want better safeties, but I think they have to get away from this spot drop zone coverage because it's just creating free access, and they're getting gashed.
Trickle-down effect there. Like, should we be talking changes at linebacker as well? I mean, the Bills have a bye week, so if you want to talk about the biggest changes you can think of that you can muster mid-season, should there be a change at linebacker?
Well, I think Shaq Thompson's clearly been the Bills' best linebacker this year. So I think whatever means he's on the field, I think you have to be there. I'm really disappointed with Terrell Bernard. He's always going to have limitations as a downhill player. Those have been as advertised. He's the reason the Bills gave up an 81-yard touchdown to Bijan Robinson. He's the A-gap defender, and he took on the block with the poor fundamentals, was slow to read, and was out of his gap, and the Bills got creased. But more than anything, the redeeming part of Terrell Bernard is supposed to be the coverage, and he doesn't have it this year. He's not playing with good feel or vision. He's spot dropping and just getting the spots and overrunning. Like he's spot dropping so bad that he's like continuing to get to his landmarks while allowing a guy to uncover behind him or next to him. It's just there's no feel. And so I don't know. I don't think the Bills are going to do anything there. It's their team captain. They love Terrell Bernard. So I'm not anticipating that, but I think the thing that I'm looking for is as much to Shaq Thompson as we can get, I think, is probably what's the most helpful at linebacker.
Yeah. Do you think Thompson at middle linebacker and Bernard moving to the will is too much of a lift middle of the season to keep Bernard on the field but put him somewhere else?
That's an attractive idea for me, Joe. I'm into that for sure. And I think that's a really good idea. Like if you want to preserve your commitment to Terrell Bernard, I think that he's optimized way more as the weak side player than the Mike. But I don't know if the Bills agree with me on that.
Joe, I think if we're like looking big picture, your tone, one of our questions we're asking today is like, hey, they lose games, back-to-back games. Yeah. It happens, blip on the radar, they kind of rally. Without talking about, like, are they still going to win the division? Sure, maybe. They'll probably be good. They'll win a bunch of games. But would you say your concern with their build right now for a Super Bowl caliber team is more shaken this year than maybe previous years?
Yeah, I think so. I think some of that's eased by looking across the league and being keenly aware of all the problems that exist. Who you want to bring up, we'll get into their problems too, and I could sell you on them being a team that can't do it, right? But yeah, I do have concerns about what this team has in terms of getting out of their annual lull, right? It's just really true. The Bills have an annual lull. Here it is. How do they get out of it? They always get out of it, right? Can they do it this year? Well, I think my concerns are way more rooted in just like architecturally what you are. Not as much on offense. I think there's a good path forward there. I think they have answers there. But here's what I'll say. And Jeremy, I hope that we will have this conversation. I'm sure we will. Because I know that you're a little more interested in upgrades in the secondary.
Yeah.
And I think I'm more interested in the upgrades at receiver.
All right.
And this is going to be a big surprise, maybe. I don't know. But I
don't think you'll have to talk to him into it too much.
You definitely don't have to talk me into it. I mean, I could certainly get there. Is it because, I mean, the main root of it for me is always, I want to lean into the path that I'm going to win games, and with this defense structurally, I might have to score 41 a game, so I got to find a way to do that.
yes, I think you're on to mostly what I'm thinking, but ultimately what it comes down to is I think this defense is completely game script dependent. And Sean McDermott says it all the time. The Falcons or whatever team is allowed to be two-dimensional, right? Well, how do you get them one-dimensional? You have more points and you have them chasing it. And I'm not saying defense, I am not saying that. But I think because of the structure of defense that you have and the personnel that you have defensively, your best way to get your defense in good situations is to be able to score a lot of points because they are game script dependent. If not, you're going to be in neutral game scripts, and when that's the case, your run defense is a problem, right? Like it's the issues there are very deep, and you're playing this coverage, where you're pretty soft. And you need that margin for error. You need to create urgency for that other team to the point where they're scared of being able to keep up with Josh Allen. And, boy, that was my whole narrative. I feel silly for my analysis the last 2 weeks because I think it's really the Bills just didn't align with it. It's like I don't think Drake May can outscore Josh Allen for 60 minutes if the Bills play offense like this. Same thing with Michael Penix. 24 points should not be enough to beat the Bills. They scored 14.
Yeah.
I think because of the way you play defense, your best opportunity is to control game scripts, and I think that starts with scoring points. And I think they need too much on defense
to
fix it with one move. So I don't know. I'm more in on the receiver piece, to be honest with you.
I mean, I love what I'm hearing. There's one more follow-up to that. Can they, if they do that, should they also flip the idea that they want to play low-event football? Right? They want to be ball control. They want to bleed clock. They want there to be fewer possessions to protect this game script defense. Should they ditch that, and should it just be, all gas, no brakes?
Oh, man.
How about more gas? Right. More gas, maybe?
Well, I think you probably need a little bit more gas.
Yeah.
I think it's funny we talk about low event, right? That's the hockey phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, low event.
I said that a few years ago, and it wrecked my world. I've been thinking about it ever since, and you just brought it up, and my head's spinning. It's funny you talk about low event football, and really that's to mitigate another team, right? Like they have a superstar quarterback, you want them on the sideline. The Bills have to play low event defense or low event offense to protect their defense, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can't put them right back out there all the time. So I have concerns about that as well, but if that leads to more mistakes, I think that's what they need. They need offenses to make more mistakes. How do you get that to happen?
Yep.
I think you got to put pressure on them.
Joe Marino. Hit that horn, baby. I heard it.
Listen.
Thanks, Joe.
Listen. All right, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
You.
Joe Marino. We'll talk a little more today. We got our Bill Squad show coming up today.
I believe he just stole your train.
Listen.
You got off the train to go get lunch, and Joe hopped in the conductor's seat, and it's driving away.
Listen, if you want to know what happens is I sit in the front seat of that train shouting safety out the window.
There's no safety train.
As the train thunders on. What about safety? What about...
It's like a safety sidecar.